If you're like me, early to mid 20s and living in Seattle, you are probably renting. Maybe because of the conveniences and flexibility that comes with renting, or because the cost of a house is now $1 million. Either way, knowing your rights as a renter is something that can make your experience so much better regardless of what city, county, or state you live in. As a landlord or property manager, it's just as important to know what rights your tenants have because it could potentially lead you to a trip to small claims court or potentially get litigated. And as deceiving as it sounds, litigation is very much not lit. There are so many rights and protections that Seattle renters have that many don't even know about. And I suspect it's all intentional given how hard it is to navigate around the official Seattle government website. So in this video, I'll be going over a few of my favorite renters' rights and protections that many don't know about, specifically in the rainy city of Seattle. Hi there! If you're new to my channel, thank you so much for showing your lowly face. In this channel, I like discussing financial topics, environmental trends, and city living. You know the drill. My name is Rin, and let's dive right in. As a quick disclaimer, I am not a legal expert or a lawyer, and depending on when you're watching this video, some of this information may be outdated. This video will not be inclusive of all tenant rights in Seattle, so the purpose of this video is to really just give you an idea of what kind of tenant rights exist within the city limits. So what I'm really saying is treat this video like a Wikipedia page and confirm the sources that I will be including in the description below. Let's say you found your dream apartment or whatever you can afford on apartments.com, you've already done the tour and you're ready to submit an application. Or what it feels like a lot of people are doing in the Seattle renters market, which is raw dogging it and submitting an application sight unseen because you're out of state or something. Here's what you gotta know before submitting that application and signing that lease. The first-in-time ordinance requires the landlord or property manager to offer the rental agreement to the first qualified candidate who submits a complete application. And applicants are screened one at a time in chronological order. Landlords must offer the unit to the first applicant that meets all requirements. And then that applicant has 48 hours to either accept or reject the offer. If they decide to reject it, then the offer goes to the next qualified applicant in the pool. This law was put in place in 2017 to prevent landlords from exercising personal judgment when screening applicants, aka treating potential tenants unfairly, regardless if they meet all requirements or not, just due to personal biases. Also in 2017, the Seattle Fair Chance Housing Ordinance was passed. This ordinance prohibits landlords from looking into people's criminal or arrest histories when making decisions on who to rent to or evict. The purpose of this ordinance was not only to prevent discrimination against people with criminal records, but also to address the discrimination against communities of color, because criminal records can be used to perpetuate racial discrimination. Landlords can, however, check to see if an adult applicant is on the sex offender registry as part of the application screening process. And if they are, then landlords have the right to deny that applicant. It's no surprise that moving isn't cheap, especially when you factor in security deposit, move-in fees, first and last month's rent as all upfront costs, which could easily reach 3 to 4 times monthly rent. When you really think about it, that's a lot of money for someone to just cough up to have a private place to sleep and call home. Fortunately, tenants have the options to pay deposits, fees, and last month's rent in interest-free installments over the course of a couple months to half a year, depending on the duration of their lease agreement. However, first month's rent does have to be paid upfront, and believe me, I've checked. I don't think there's really any way around that, but if there is, definitely let me know. The cool thing about this option is landlords can't refuse a payment plan. However, be sure to get that mutual agreement in writing beforehand. Seattle has a really strong pet culture because pets make people happy. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I've seen a lot of sad people in Seattle. There are plenty of rental options in Seattle that are super pet friendly, but there are lots of options as well that aren't super pet friendly. For rentals that enforce no pet policies, these policies do not extend to service animals, including emotional support animals, as service animals are considered reasonable accommodation, which is protected by fair housing rules. And because of that, landlords can't charge pet deposits for verified service animals. However, landlords can ask for verification of the disability-related need for the animal from a trusted third party. So after you've signed the lease, you're officially in and you are a Seattle renter. Here are some rights that you should know about once you're in. Landlords need to start repairs 24 hours for anything that would cause a safety issue, think like running water, electricity, or heating in the wintertime, 72 hours for appliances or plumbing issues, and 10 days for any other repair request. If your landlord does not respond or refuses to make a necessary repair, you can contact the Renting in Seattle helpline. As of November 8, 2021, a landlord must give you, at minimum, a 180-day notice prior to a housing cost increase. A 6-month notice is very generous because it gives you the opportunity to explore other options without being in such a tight time frame. Also, increases can only start at the beginning of a rental period, so landlords can't pull a fast one and bump up the rent mid-lease. If you're enjoying this video so far, why don't you consider giving this video a big thumbs up? I would really appreciate it. Plus, it's free, so you really have nothing to lose. Anyways, on with the video. Landlords must give you at minimum a 2-day notice before they enter your apartment for repairs or an inspection, and at minimum a 1-day notice if they are showing the apartment to prospective tenants if you decide to not renew the lease. This ordinance requires landlords to have a just cause reason in order to terminate tenancy. So what this means is landlords can evict tenants for no reason, or for questionable reasons that may or may not be considered as discrimination. As of the date I'm recording this, there are 18 just cause reasons, and just to name a few, think like non-payment of rent, non-compliance with lease terms, chronically late rent payments, and the intention of the landlord to occupy the unit themselves or rent the unit to an immediate family member. And the rest of them can be found linked in the description down below. So now that we have an idea of what landlords can do, here are a few things that landlords can't do and would be considered as illegal landlord acts. To name a few, self-help evictions are illegal. Landlords can't remove a tenant without a court order. Evictions must be ordered by the court and must be served by a county sheriff. Lockouts are illegal. Landlords cannot restrict tenants from access to the unit by changing the locks. It's also illegal to take or keep tenant property in lieu of rental payments. Last but not least, here's what you gotta know if you're moving out. There's a handful of acceptable breaks as defined by the Landlord and Tenant Act, such as a call to military service, moving out as a response to a serious repair concern which makes the unit unfit for living, and the landlord isn't taking action to fix within a specific time frame. Protections for domestic violence survivors, stalking or sexual assault, or unlawful harassment by a landlord or landlord's agent. A tenant is threatened by the landlord or neighbor with a deadly weapon resulting in an arrest, and the landlord fails to file an eviction action. Outside of these 4 acceptable breaks, it'll pretty much be at the discretion of the landlord on what they want to do if the tenant decides to break the lease, which will usually be outlined in the lease agreement itself. A couple common protocols could be charging a one-time breaking lease fee, or continuing to charge the tenant rent until the unit is re-rented. In Seattle, landlords can withhold some or even all of the security deposit to cover actual damages to the unit, unpaid rent, and to cover any owed charges to the landlord. However, the landlord must refund the entire security deposit if the landlord and renter did not sign a move-in checklist when the renter moved in, the landlord does not return the deposit, and or a full and specific statement explaining the reasons for keeping any portion of the deposit within 21 days after the renter moves out. The only caveat is in the case that the landlord needs additional time to get repair quotes, then they need to notify you within that 21-day window. I don't know about you, but after doing research for this video, I've come to the conclusion that being a landlord in Seattle, in this economy, that's a choice. If this video helps you in any way, shape, or form, hit that like button and drop a comment down below. Honestly, if this video helps at least one person, I feel like all of the research I've done for this would have been well worth it. If there's a noteworthy Seattle renters law that I might have missed, feel free to drop that sweet, juicy, bodacious knowledge down in the comments section below. I'm sure others would be very grateful that you shared that information. Also, consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this in the future. I love making these kind of videos, so that's the best way that I'll know that you like them too. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Toodles!